Yeah, Rap Radio Podcast, Elliot
My
Wilson.
name is B-Dot.
B-Dot, what's up, baby?
Man, I'm feeling fantastic.
We're both fans today because we got the legend, Babyface. Kenneth Babyface Evans up here, man.
How are you?
Good to meet you,
Living
sir.
legend, man.
Yeah.
Good to be here.
Babyface, you're already having a busy 2023 already, man.
Yeah, it's been different.
It's been different.
Back outside, Face.
Yeah, exactly. Back outside. Yeah. I guess I came outside for a little bit. Yeah, play around.
Where do we start? I mean, congratulations on the Grammy nomination.
Thank you.
Of LMA Keeps on Falling. Like, how meaningful is it to have a Grammy nomination and be recognized all these years later?
That's the cool part. You know, I didn't see it coming. Wasn't that I was looking for it either. So when it happens, you appreciate it that much more. It's an honor, to still be thought of and still be looked at like you can still do it. So I'm good with that.
It was important with that Girls Night Out project to connect with this new generation of artists, right? Can you speak about that process?
Yeah, I think it was definitely Girls Night Out. That the whole idea of that was actually, I'd like to say that was my idea. It wasn't. It was actually Rika, my partner Rika.
Rika's a genius out here.
Yes.
Rika.
And she came up with it and she said, it was after Verses. I did Verses and, everybody was talking about that. And then I seemed to pick up a lot of fans from there. And so it's like, how do I keep on connecting? Because I want to still be able to, write music and do things to stay relevant to a certain extent. Yeah. And that seemed to be the best way. It was a great idea. And then we got all these artists in. The difference is, say I did Exhale all by myself with all the women. Yeah. But this one, we actually collaborate together. We wrote it together. So I was able to get a sense of them and also work with younger producers too. So that it really was a whole collaboration project.
Yeah, I saw something you said where like today's female artists are kind of more clear on what they want to say and how they want to express themselves. Right?
Clearly. Everybody, people in general today, but definitely the female artists, they really kind of have a sense of what they're not gonna say and what they're gonna say. and that's refreshing. I can't put words into their mouths. I can only suggest something, in terms of how they might approach it. I think the biggest difference on this project with each one of the artists, I was able to kind of dig into them a little bit deeper, so they artistically they push themselves a little bit more. In terms of not just lyrically, but also as they're in the room performing, going places that they wouldn't normally go to, because most of the producers and people that they work with, they don't know that they got that in them.
Mm-hmm. And I think you wanted to bring light to them too. Like I think with this project, it seems like, you obviously have had the accolades and sell this amount of records, but it seemed like success for this project to me was almost just the execution of it, right? And seeing the impact it had, right?
No question. It didn't even matter how big it got. It was a question of shining a light on a lot of these girls that the light wasn't on necessarily, and to show that there's so much talent out there, and all different. It's not like you got this Girls Night Out is full of the same kind of things. Yeah. Each one of these girls had something to bring to the table, different. So that's the coolest part about it, the project, I think.
Right. Yeah. You still have a lot to say too, man. You got your own song right now. Matter of fact.
Dropped a solo single.
Yeah, that's just, I was talked into doing it because they said, well, you're doing the Super Bowl. You should have some kind of something out.
Get them streams up, baby.
So we put it out for that reason. But other than that, wrote it about 2 years ago.
Oh.
And so, so it was kind of sitting there. It's good, the good feeling, good love, and more traditional R&B, and I have a number of fans that were like, even though they liked Girls Night Out, they were like, "Give me the old stuff, give me the."
Yeah.
So
some vintage.
So this was kind of giving some vintage Babyface.
As a matter of fact, right?
As a matter of fact, I was doing that.
Do you sit on a lot of music like that?
Probably. A lot of things I throw away and don't revisit it. So
Babyface, you don't have no throwaways, man.
No, yeah, I got throwaways. Bunch of throwaways and stuff that I just don't, think it doesn't. And I like it. My engineers keep on, you need to put this stuff out, but no, it's different. It was for its time period, and so I gotta leave it there.
How do you stay inspired with that? Like, have you ever suffered with writer's block at times? Like, how do you seem like you just?
Of course, you have writer's block, and when you have writer's block, you just don't write.
Simple.
You just walk away from it. But you get inspired by everybody else and by music that you're hearing. I always I do listen to what comes out, And if somebody directs me to someone that's happening, whatever, then I listen to it. And it seemed like there was a good while where I wasn't loving a lot of things, because it was all kind of the same, sounding the same. But even then, I tried to understand it and why everybody liked it, because I didn't want to be a hater. Because you find yourself in that position, then you will age yourself out of it. Period. Absolutely, you won't ever be able to hear it when it is good. When it does feel good, when it doesn't. So
yeah, I heard you say that. Like, I think I try to do that too. Like sometimes, because I've been covering hip hop forever, but like if it's young record hits off and I don't get why it's hitting, I try to figure out, try to understand what the connectivity is. Right?
Yeah. And it's sometimes it's a simple lyric. It's just so stupid that it works, or it's just the feel of it. And sometimes things are just so bad that they're good.
Yeah. Is there a common denominator you experience with a lot of songs today? Is like a certain thread with a lot
okay. Used to be when songs were more traditional, but not anymore. Today it can be the simplest thing, you know, a kick and a hi-hat and the right thing put on top of it. It makes it go.
Right.
Is it catchy? Does it stick with you? And it works with a particular genre of people, so it's not necessarily for everybody. There's a lot more pockets of music now where everybody's not necessarily all on the same thing. Everybody can have a career, and do well that might not have anything to do with radio.
True.
But they can still survive and do just as good. So it wasn't like that before, but now there's all kind of pockets.
Yeah. I saw something. You said that newer artists tend to approach the record behind the beat instead of on top of the beat, like a lot of the older artists do. Like, can you give me any examples of that that may not be as knowledgeable as you? Like,
it's hard to say. Like when I worked with Lucky Day, and Lucky's really good at it too. And Lucky can go both ways. But what I was able to learn, because when we did a remake of Can't High Love with Earth, Wind and Fire, and Philip came in and sang, and then we rewrote on top of it. And the verses that we were writing on top of it was completely different, but had this laid back, just kind of feel that felt like today. And I started to understand it better, and it felt really good. And that's the thing, is that I imagine while we were doing it, I imagine Maurice White being in there and just really kind of getting it. Like, I totally hear where you come from. So it's like, it is something that, how do I put this? Something you have to learn. It's not something that you can just, when you're growing up with it, it's natural. Yeah. But if you've grown up doing something else, then you got to learn it. You gotta. Is
it almost unlearning it in a sense too, right?
To a certain extent, yeah. Yeah, I think that's really kind of it. The rules don't apply, And then for a good minute, I couldn't necessarily really feel the difference, especially when I would do it. I couldn't feel the difference of how, when I was like, I thought I was on it, but I wasn't, And then finally it started to come together, and then and I had to kind of do that with this project, with Singing with the Girls, because I didn't want to sound too 90s and ahead of the beat and everything. So I was able to kind of figure that out, and everything I played for the girls, made sure that they were cool with it as well. It was really, I wasn't trying to do anything where I was just trying to like, okay, this is it, and this is how it goes. Right. Yeah. It was total collaboration.
Yeah. You would definitely carry on tradition at the Super Bowl, man. Like you mentioned, performed America the Beautiful.
Yeah, I kind of decided to not try to be too new on that, just throw a little Babyface licks in there. In the end of it, I said, might as well try it. You ain't got no other shot to do it.
But as polished as you are, was it still kind of nerve-wracking or like that?
Oh, yeah. I was nervous as hell.
Wow.
Because, it could have gone wrong. It could have gone terribly wrong, and then that's all they'll talk about. Yeah. And it is, it's a patriotic song, and so you want to be respectful with it. And it's a question of just trying to deliver it in an honest way. Yeah. And that was my biggest thing is trying to deliver it that way. And I knew doing it with acoustic guitar would be my best bet. I'm not no big gospel singer. I wasn't gonna be riffing and
do some runs.
I wasn't gonna be Marvin Gaye. I wasn't gonna be Whitney. I wasn't gonna be any of that. I just had to be myself. Because had I tried to be those things, then I don't know why I even tried that. So I just kind of went the most honest way I could approach it. And so the nervous part was, when the click comes on and when you're playing for all the backgrounds and everything, that you start when the song's supposed to start.
Yeah.
Because if you start wrong, then
it's a long day.
I'm sure it's a song that you heard 1,000 times prior. Did you rehearse it?
Well, you showed yourself playing it as a child, right? As a teenager.
Yeah, I played it. That's the only other time I played on stage. But I was and I was a sophomore.
Yeah.
And me and Daryl Simmons and Sky Emmanuel Officer, we did harmonies with it. Yeah. So not the same version.
Isn't it crazy that many years ago, this guy Jay-Z, you don't really know who he is. You jump in, you do a hook for a song called Sunshine.
Yeah.
You're in and out. And then many years later, he's involved with this and he's booking you to play Super Bowl. And
pays me the favor back finally. That's payback. Pay it forward.
Gotta be patient. They'll come back around.
Just gotta wait for it. This was much better than any verse he would have given me. And so, because when we did do that, I was telling him, when I went in with him, I didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
Andre Harrell kind of pushed me, you need to do that. And it was a Frankie Beverly song. I was like, why am I doing this? And he said, he wanted you. So, all right, I'll do it. And he said, yeah, I know you didn't know who I was, but it was cool. I still did it anyway. So, and so that was that long ago. And so, full circle, he certainly made the decision to, which was an unorthodox decision in the sense that I wouldn't have been the normal choice for doing that.
The politics in the past.
Yeah. I just know that's just the reality of it. So it was definitely a unique call. And I appreciate it.
We ended up holding court at the main table at the Rock Nation brunch. I think we all had a good time.
Yeah.
You might have stayed longer than you intended, but
I actually had been intended to go in and out, but I was sitting with the king, so and it was great. We had a great conversation, so it was fun.
Well, you're performing with the Queen, Miss Anita Baker, currently on tour.
Yes, she's so good too.
Wow.
She's so good. I watched her show. We performed last night, and that was our first show.
On Valentine's Day.
Yeah. And man, you forget, I mean, there's always the hits, but the thing that goes beyond the hits is that real artist that can go up on that stage and really make those things come alive. You understand why she is who she is. She's amazing, and so great to have her out there, and I'm so glad to be out there performing with her.
Yeah, I saw something. You said a lot of the success of was it Tony Braxton was like originally the intent was a lot of those songs were for Anita Baker.
There were 2 songs specifically written for Anita that she turned down.
Yeah,
I don't feel bad about it now.
LA told me about the story about Love Should Have Brought You Home.
Love Should Have Brought You Home and You Mean the World to Me was the second one that was written. Maybe she'll do this one instead. But Love Should Have Brought You Home. That was we wanted Anita on the project, and she said we didn't need her at all.
I mean, it's only the first show where I saw Usher came out, right?
Yeah.
Was it good kicking it with him? Reconnecting.
Yeah, Usher came back. He came backstage and said we said hey and stuff. So we see each other every now and then. But that was like the first night for the show, so it was a little bit of trying to get it together. She was just incredible, and it was fun. Crowd was great. It was Atlanta.
Yeah.
And it was sold out, and it was a great night.
I saw one of the earlier show you did. I think it was overseas. That I don't know if this is still part of your set list, but it seems like you just stunt and say, "Hey, I'm about to do a half hour of just hits that I wrote for other people."
That's a big part of the show. So, because I do go through a medley of songs.
Woo.
And so I got to go through the guy songs and I got to go through the girl songs. So that's like at least half the show, actually. So it's a fun part because it really takes everybody down memory lane, and everybody they get up and party. I get to get my Bobby on. I get to
yeah, you do the choreography a little, right?
I try a little bit. You know?
We were talking about the Bobby thing, like to go back. Like I think, like we all love New Edition, kind of growing up, but it was like something about when the Bobby record hit, the Don't Be Cruel.
Yeah,
it just kind of became this phenomenon, right?
It was.
Yeah.
Watched it in real time. It was like when Bobby was let go. I think that probably a lot of them probably thought that was it for Bobby. And
yeah.
Bobby actually put out a single called "Girlfriend." I don't know. I think it might have been a whole album, but
you can say mid. It was a little mid. It wasn't fully there.
Yeah,
it wasn't all the way there.
Yeah,
but it was like, you know, I mean, a girlfriend. I forget something like that. And I remember what made me decide to want to work with him. We had just met with Lil Silas over at MCA, and he was saying, "You guys should work with Bobby." And I wasn't completely sure. And then when we got in the car driving, Bobby was doing this live show on KJLH, and he was singing "Girlfriend." And he started singing, and he went for a note, and he didn't hit the note. And then he goes, "I didn't want to sing that song anyway." I was like, "Oh man, he's crazy!" And then I wanted to work with him for sure. So when it came the chance to work with him, these songs some of the songs had been sitting around for a while, weren't really. They weren't written for him per se. They became his. "Don't Be Cruel" was definitely written for him. But "Rock With You" was written before, and "Roni" was written way before.
We got to talk about Roni. We're going to get back to Roni.
It was written way before. "Every Little Step" was written. "Every Little Step" was actually tried to place that on Midnight Star.
Wow.
And so Bobby ended up getting these songs that were when he took them. And when his voice got on them, there's this magic that happened. And when he worked with, you know, Teddy Riley and that My Prerogative, it's like, so to be a part of that, Bobby actually, to be honest, Bobby leaned towards Teddy Riley more than he did with us.
Yeah, it was saying there was some resistance at first, right?
Yeah, definitely, because Teddy was like Teddy was killing. He came out with, you know, Keith Sweat. You know, when I heard "I Want Her," I was like, "Oh, it's over." How we gonna ever do anything like that? That's
the Keith Sweat "I Want Her." Yeah.
Oh, that.
Yeah, we was in New York. That was running.
Oh, that
like,
changed.
We felt so proud. Like we was like,
oh, it changed my life. There, I was like, oh man, oof. Wow. It was just so. It was so new and so like. There's no way we gonna ever be that funky. And so, you know, our version of it ultimately became, you know, "Every Little Step," which was still a love song.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And even with "Don't Be Cruel." So it was he just had this thing about him where the rawness of Bobby, there's an honesty that was in it.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. So that honesty, and then he was also, you know, the first one to start rapping with his music. And so that brought it to another level. So it put him on a whole nother thing. And so we sat there and watched that happen when he did the "Don't Be Cruel" video. And then I remember we were out on the road somewhere in South Carolina or North Carolina. He was touring with New Edition, I'll Be Sure. I'll Be Sure was headlining.
Wow.
New Edition and Bobby Brown. And Bobby was opening the show. And I remember we got to the show late, didn't get to see Bobby go up, but walked out on the side of the stage. And while New Edition was on the stage, while I'll Be Sure was on the stage, Bobby walked on the side. And even though I'll Be Sure was on the stage, all these girls saw Bobby over there. They were freaking out that Bobby Brown was there.
Wow.
And I was like, uh-oh. It's getting ready to change. And probably a month later, that tour went from I'll Be Sure being in the middle, New Editioning open, I'll Be Sure, and Bobby Brown was headlining.
Wow. We shuffled it.
Never seen that.
Yeah.
You know, he was electric. He was explosive. The way he performed, when you see things, he was just a performer.
Yeah.
And it was just excitement. So he was lucky to find us, and we were lucky to find him.
Yeah.
At the right time. It was just the right timing.
Right. Well, I mean, you have a string of hits. Like, you're one of the most iconic songwriters and producers of all time. And you wrote everything like but the Bible. But what I want to know is, like, how does a person become a great songwriter like yourself?
I don't know if there's any, I don't really have an answer to it other than that I always used to just like to write songs all the time. And I wrote a lot of songs that sucked too. And that, you know, it was the process of trying to figure out what people liked. I remember sitting outside Benny Medina's office trying to peddle some songs to him. And I sat out there for a couple hours and finally got in and played him stuff. And he's like, no, I don't hear anything. And those were early pieces of things that weren't really that good yet. But it was that process of going through, of getting denied, that made me like, okay, I'm gonna work a little harder and try to figure this out. How can I be more commercial? How can I make sure I got a good hook? How can I make sure that it matches whatever the artist it is? And that's when I think when it started to become more alive, when we were actually able to get the artist in and work with the artist and then actually shape it that way. Because otherwise it was just kind of just songwriting and not every person, producer or something would be able to figure out what to do with it, how to make it match whoever that artist would be. Yeah. So,
were you like good in English when you were growing up?
No, I liked doing poetry, writing poetry, and I always liked writing songs. I started writing songs when I was in 6th grade.
Right. So,
but I was a very average student. You know, I sucked in school. Let's call it for real. I will not show you my report card.
Word, but do you know when a song is going to become a hit? Is there a feeling to it?
Nah. You know when something feels good to you, and you hope that it catches and hope that everybody else hears it, but there's no real answer to that. Everybody, you can always be a Monday morning quarterback and say, I knew that was going to be one. But you never know, and I stand with that. There are some people that maybe knew, you know, when you're hot and when it's groove oriented, I'm sure there are times when people just like, okay, this is one. And but I've always been kind of superstitious, and I always say, I'm not going to say that, because as soon as you say that, it won't be. Yeah. So
I think when I think of like your songs, like a singular song, it kind of became its own phenomenon too. I think of Boyz II Men, End of the Road.
Yeah.
Like, and I think you had put a photo on IG, like with your kids saying the house behind you is where you wrote the song. Or something like that. Can you speak about that? Like, I always wonder with you, like, where are you actually creating these songs? Like, where are you writing these songs?
I mean, like, there's a lot of songs all over Hollywood that were, you know, that were created in little places that I was like, that we were living in, like, in some apartments. I know where I wrote Can We Talk, which was on Burton Way and Maple, a little apartment there. Wrote Whip Appeal in Hollywood on Milner Street.
Big tune.
Also wrote the Bobby Brown's On Our Own.
Classic.
Yeah. But I think overall, just writing in general, like with the End of the Road, that was a little house that I got just to go there and have a space to write at. It was really just for myself. Yeah. That was really kind of going to the movie, to Boomerang, watching it, and then saying, okay, they need a song from Boyz II Men. They really wanted a song from Boyz II Men, so I wanted it to have a Philly kind of sound, and just started, you know, thought of the situation. I wrote it for a particular scene that it didn't go in the scene that I wanted it to go for. But that's where the inspiration came from.
Yeah. And also it's about a breakup, and you were going through a breakup at that time too, right? Situation? Or no?
Kinda. Yeah. I don't know. It didn't factor into it.
Got you. You know? Yeah, no,
I'm just thinking, no, I don't. It's like there was a complete, for like my personal life, many times there was a complete separation of me writing, other than maybe writing something on my kids. Yeah. But other than that, writing personal stuff, I usually like, I'm not going to.
Kept it separate,
I'm not going to put those two together. But you could certainly read from it, from all the sad ass songs I've written and love songs I've written over the years. But it was never really on the basis of that. At least that's what I would tell myself.
Yeah. We think this big part of that song to me is like, You know, because I think a lot of times, especially with you also, like we credit you for writing the songs, but how active you also are as a producer of the songs. Like almost a decision there to like drop off them to go a cappella at the end of the song. Yeah. To me, is so much of a key of why that song resonates so strongly.
They just sound so good, you know. And they were, I mean, I did the demo of the song, and when I did the song, it was one song that I thought was really good. I said, maybe I should keep this for myself. And obviously didn't keep it for myself. I think that's one time, you know, that where once they got on it, it was like it was made for them. Yeah. And we only had one day to record it, one afternoon. Wow. Because they were out on the road and they came in and when we started working together, we could tell. I think at that point we could tell with Boyz II Men and myself that we kind of connected and that we would probably be able to work together in the future because there was just something that was kind of magical with us.
I feel like sometimes Boyz II Men are somewhat underrated, right? I feel like this generation, like they'll praise Jodeci, which were dope also, but I feel like Boyz II Men doesn't fully get the credit they deserve.
Yeah, I think the issue with that is a culture question because Jodeci is far more cultural in that sense. Boyz II Men, they became very big pop. Jodeci never became that. Yeah. But culturally, they were huge. So it's a question of flavor sometimes, and Boyz II Men get overlooked even on something like even with their first album. There were a lot more urban things on the first album that people have a tendency to forget because they became so big with the Motown Philly, and then at that particular point, they became America's group. Yeah, and then Into the Road kind of like
blew them out. Yeah. Blew them out to Elvis record.
And so it was. So they were suddenly not
ours per se, right?
Yeah, they weren't. Yeah. They became not necessarily a black group, and but just pop, and I think there's the difference. And they have love songs that are big pop love songs. Yeah.
But your sound is so tailored for the specific artist, right? But when it comes to production, you don't sample, right?
He don't do remixes either.
Like, so all the production that we hear from all these classics, these are just from scratch?
Yeah, I mean, initially the demos would be done, and be fair, a lot of the things were done with LA in terms of
course
the production. Yeah, the earlier stuff, you know, we were doing things together. Then when we separated, then I had to kind of do it myself. But I had always been doing the demos anyway. It was something I was kind of like, I guess, learning on the job all the time. When we first got our chance to produce our own album, we were scared because we didn't know if we really knew. You know, we always were under the impression it's like really difficult, and it's like you got to be way smarter to be producing stuff. When in fact it's just a question of, you know, what you hear, you know, and does it feel good? Does it feel right? And once you trust that, then, you know, anybody can, not anybody, but if you have that ability, then you can go make magic happen. Wow. That's like where I've always said, like P. Diddy, Puffy, it's always been underrated because, you know, he didn't play any instruments, but he knew how to go in there. He knew when that stuff felt right. And he wouldn't let it come out till, you know, till it came out right. So, and you have these other producers that would help create those tracks and stuff like that. But he was like that dude that was like, you know, and the proof is in the pudding in terms of how much success everybody had afterwards. Not that they didn't have it, but it wasn't the same kind of success. So I give him much credit for that. And I ended up working with him on this album, this last album he's working on, and I actually got to see him work and produce. And I understood it. You know, how he can inspire you and get you to, you know, give me this, give me that. He does that. He does it way better than I do in terms of trying to inspire you to really go there. Yeah, I had a lot of respect for him after that.
No, but because he's working on more of an R&B type project and stuff like that.
Yeah. So what's it like being the go-to producer, like from the late 80s all the way up to like the mid 90s when you're like the most sought after?
You know, it's not so much go-to at this point. There are people that, my blessing is that there are producers and there are artists that still want to work with me today. And people that are, and literally, you know, really want to get in the studio and chop it up. That's not normal. And because of, and I think part of that is because I try to not be stuck in one particular genre, and I've done a number of things, you know, from Boyz II Men to a Madonna, to a Barbra Streisand, to a Fall Out Boy, to a Eric Clapton, you know, to
the range.
So doing that, and coming from the basis of being a musician first, I just feel like your ears should always be open and always be ready to try anything. You're a musician, so you shouldn't be afraid of it, and shouldn't get so stuck in having your sound or anything. Some people would come to me for my sound. They would like for me to do backgrounds on things. That's how it was with Madonna. That's how it was with Eric Clapton. And then that's kind of like how I would push the whole Babyface thing sometimes. You know?
Yeah, the background of going back to Ronnie, like
yeah, you know, the funny thing is that I think that's really how I got my gig with the deal to begin with, because I was really good at making 4-track demos and doing backgrounds. Really good at that. And so I was actually hired from Jeff Cooper in Midnight Star, said, can you please come down and help us produce the deal, write some songs for the deal, because you do really good 4-tracks. So why don't you do that, and you can help with the deal, help them get a record deal. I wasn't even in the band then. Wow. And so that was kind of my thing. And I always was good at kind of doing backgrounds and doing harmonies. Yeah. You know,
how did Two Occasions change your life?
Two Occasions was, that's a song that there was a number of people that were writing it. It was a piece of a song, and D actually came up with the I Don't Think of You on Two Occasions. I said, oh, shit. And
you said Daryl Simmons?
No, that was actually D Bristol, the lead singer of The Deal.
Yeah.
And D was a talented guy. D would like sit and come up with the hook in seconds. And so we took that, and it's just with a couple of things I was starting to put together. And the funny thing about Two Occasions is that I don't know that we knew what we had when we were putting it together. We definitely didn't. And there was this moment where we were doing the song, and D was supposed to sing the whole song. And Carlos wanted to sing the song, but actually we had it for D to sing the whole song. But we were out here in California on Highland and Franklin. We had an apartment over there.
Face gonna remember them streets.
And we were at Solar Records, which is later became the Evans Building, and then now it's Diane Warren's building. So we were there, and we were working on the song, and then D was supposed to come in, and D said, I can't come work on the song because I need to go back to Ohio, go back to Cincinnati, because I got a Halloween party I'm throwing. So he went to go do his, he was famous for his Halloween parties. So he went back and gave his Halloween party. So it left it to where I had to do the bridge, and Carlos did a verse. Carlos got to be able to do a verse. And so that was like how I ultimately ended up on Two Occasions. It was supposed to be D. And then we did the fake live version.
You said fake live version?
Yeah, fake live. It wasn't live. I think that was kind of like where Babyface became Babyface. Because I had a song out called I Love You, Babe, that was out at the same time. And it was okay. It was doing okay. But it wasn't, and I was confused. I didn't know who I was trying to be. You listen to that first album, it's everywhere. Everything's everywhere. So you got New Edition songs. You got. It's just like, how old are you? Anyway, and so when that song happened, I Love You, Babe happened, and then Two Occasions. This one thing happened in the summer where we were touring. This is, like I said, this is the birth of Babyface. Bootsy had given me the name, and that was like, that was fate too, because we couldn't figure out a nickname for myself. And then I walked in the studio one day, he said Babyface, and that was it. There's more to that, but anyway. So we were on tour in Indianapolis, Indiana, and we performed.
Hometown.
Yep, we performed that night, and we would do the whole show, and I think we had a good reaction to the songs and stuff like that. But then I had some wisdom teeth that were impacted, and I had to have my wisdom teeth taken out.
Wow.
So they decided rather than just taking the 2 out, they said, we need to take all 4 out. So I was like messed up. And we had a show maybe the next night or 2 nights later in Louisville, Kentucky, and I couldn't go on. And so my brother, Melvin, he took my place and sang that night. Then we had another big show a couple of nights later in New Orleans at the Superdome.
Yeah. Big arena.
So it was like 40,000 people, whatever. And they were like, you know, you really need to go up there. I said, but I can't. So what we decided to do is they did the whole show. And then at the end of the show, D goes, so one of our members, Babyface, he couldn't make it out here tonight because he feels really sick, but he feels so bad about it. He wanted to come out here and try to do this last song for you guys. And so welcome up Babyface, and I walk across, I have this white suit on, I walk across the stage. I'm imagining I'm walking like Luther, and as I'm walking across, but I'm in pain, and I'm like, I was actually in pain. I go down, sit at the piano, and start doom, 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 doom. The whole place explodes just with that. And I always remember we played in 82, 83 with Luther and DeBarge, and we get killed every night because as soon as we finished, they said, next up is DeBarge, and the place would explode. And we was always looking for our explosion, but we never would get an explosion. And so when I did doom, 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 the whole place exploded, and I started singing, and that was like the birth of Babyface.
Wow.
And then I played sick the rest of the tour.
The show must go on.
I played so I'd wait till the last song and come on. It was a nice little gimmick.
But then you build with Tender Lover, right? So that's your second album, triple platinum. It's No Crime, Whip a Pill as soon as I get home. What was the whole process putting that record together?
So that was I was starting to, because of, 2 occasions, all of a sudden I'm starting to, okay, so that's who Babyface is, a romantic guy. So I'm starting now to try to write things that make sense there. But sometimes it wouldn't be, like It's So Crime was completely different.
Up tempo.
It was like a whole different, sometimes I would end up doing tracks that weren't necessarily what everybody else was doing, but it was just music. So I would just do it. And that was one of those things. I remember Michael Jackson liked that track.
It's No Crime?
He liked It's No Crime. I don't like what's on top of it, but I love the groove. Thank you for that.
He talks about working with Michael. Michael's like, I love it. Just make it better.
Exactly.
Dig real deep.
No, dig deeper.
Dig deeper.
You obviously didn't dig deep enough for the top part on Crime, but it's okay. I like the truth. He didn't say that, but
that's one missing. You didn't have that joint with Michael, right? Like the way Teddy had Remember the Time.
Teddy. I worked with Michael. I did a couple songs here and there, but never got that one. Never that one that I really wanted. And but I went with them a couple times and really kind of hung out with them a few times where we were just kind of like we would just talk. And it wasn't even about really recording anything. So, and to me, that's just as precious to me in that sense. To been in that position. But like Teddy clearly did his thing with Michael and made a stamp.
Well, people may not know you as a kid. Like you interviewed Michael Jackson as a kid. You scammed your way through that. Like the idol of yours, right?
It's an interesting thing because I would watch how Michael was magical, and Michael had this ability to make people do anything he wanted them to do. And I was like so excited to meet him again as an adult. Before we met with Michael, we went to Lionel Richie's house, Brenda Ritchie, and Lionel was there. And Lionel talked about doing We Are the World with them. And we were like, the next day we were gonna get on a helicopter, go out and visit Michael in Neverland. And Lionel goes, just be careful. Just watch out for him because he's a sneaky little character. And he'll get you doing a bunch of stuff that you don't want to do. And so, he'll pull you in. He got that charm. He'll pull you in. So I approached it without him. No, I ain't gonna let you get me. So I acted a little bit more Indianapolis than I normally would have. I didn't fan out on him, with Lionel's warning. And I think because of that, Michael, we were always end up being cooler with each other because of it. Because I
more
didn't,
friends than
I didn't fan out on him.
Yeah.
I didn't praise him. And he always used to say, you're funny. We've got the same sense of humor because we're from Indiana. and I was like, yeah, maybe. But he was great. He was, a very sweet person.
Yeah.
I think that we were just lucky to have, worked with him, period.
Yeah.
And I just got so much respect for those that, really worked with them and really got really great stuff. Yeah. The name that nobody wants to mention, but R. Kelly did, You Are Not Alone,
Yeah.
Whew,
big record.
that's a great copyright.
Yeah. Is that the thing that's like interesting? You like, even like, when I go back to your music, like even your first album, like it's a cover song of a stylistics, like you covered James Taylor, like to me, someone who writes great songs like yourself, you really appreciate other great songs.
Oh, no
in
question.
Such a way that's different.
Great songs, great writers. I was never jealous. I was never not even competitive with any other writers. I always respected their work, even with Teddy and when we were doing the Bobby album, and I could see Bobby clearly leaning towards that. I said, I get it, 'cause that's what it is. So it was never a competition thing to me. And I think I got that a little bit from just Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, because when we met them, they were so nice and so supportive. And I was like, so that's how you're supposed to be, because I wanted to be them. And to run into Jimmy and Terry, who are just the nicest people in the world. And they were like, you don't underestimate what they did and the sound that they created. And nobody could do it like them. Nobody ever came out doing the Jimmy and Terry sound. Nobody ever captured that. They own that. And from the Janet stuff to other things that they've done. And to come from the time you thought that was, that they would have been that, but I guess ultimately that was Prince. But so when they came, it sounded so fresh that they came with their own thing. So, but they were a huge inspiration for me as a writer and a producer, wanting to be like them. And half the reason why we got LA and Babyface is because Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, we need a cool name, so LA and Babyface.
Right.
Why did the partnership end at that time, like 93 or so? Like
that's something I cannot talk about at the moment, but I will talk about it later in a docu that I'm doing. So,
documentary?
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. Yeah, I remember that was just a big thing in the industry. It was just like, because you think about it, like people get fascinated because there was never no decline, right? Like you guys were still on top.
We still, the actual working together, producing together, that's the only thing that ultimately changed.
Yeah.
But we kept LaFace going, and I kept on writing for LaFace as well, and the artists that would be there, and we were able to build in that way. I think, interesting enough, I think it was probably the best thing that could have happened, because I think that LA was destined to become an executive, and ultimately go to the places that he went to. Yeah. And I was destined to, become more of a writer and a producer and go down that road even more. Things might have been different, had it gone another way. I might not have ever got to Madonna. I might not have ever got to
Eric Clapton.
Those kind of things, those kind of projects, they wouldn't have ever happened. Yeah. And hence I wouldn't have been able to grow as a producer-writer.
Yeah, you guys have remained great friends, and I've seen you say before, like you don't think also LA gets enough credit for what he's achieved as an executive.
Yeah, as an executive, he accomplished a lot of things, and you give credit to where credit is due. I think that my goal, my thing has always been a writer. I've always been a writer from the get-go, and more of a writer than even an artist. And so writer, producer, artist. That's kind of like how I put things, you know. So.
And somewhat of a hip hop head, you know. I mean, hip hop is celebrating its 50th year this year.
Yeah.
And you're old enough to see its growth, right? And growing up in Indiana, like, were there artists or groups that songs that you gravitated towards in its inception?
Well, you know, hip hop started happening actually when I was in this group called Manchild. There's a guy named Reggie Griffin, who was the leader of the band, and he ended up leaving Manchild a little earlier, and he ended up working with this little group called Sugar Hill Gang.
Might have heard of them. A little something. Rapper's Delight.
And he started doing a lot of the music for them. So like he had jumped on it way early before we even knew that that's what the possibility was for that. And I remember when we were in the deal, we had this little group open up for us, and we were like, what are they doing? Is this even work? You know, they was wearing their Adidas and they had their hats on. And of course, you know, 3 months later, they was like way above us. It was Run DMC.
Wow.
You know, but they had opened up for us.
Legendary.
Like, I don't know about that. And we wasn't judgmental with it. It was just a question of didn't quite understand it.
Yeah.
And then it's interesting. I think that I often imagine, had I grown up today, what kind of writer would I be? You know, and depending on where I grew up, you know, if I grew up in New York, you know, how influenced would I be? And at a different time, would I lean towards it, more hip hop? You know, I mean, to this day, I still look at, like, I love Drake. And I think that Drake is like, I'd love to work with Drake where we just do a classic song. Because I think his phrasing and his lyrics and everything, I think it goes beyond just, you know, rap, so to say. And I like the tone of his voice. So I feel like there's, like, even in that, I feel like I hear emotion and stuff in his voice. So as a writer and a producer, even with hip hop, with rap, hip hop, for whatever you want to call it, the same thing applies, the emotion and the feel good. And there's, like, you know, from whether it's Drake, from Lil Baby, you know, to Babyface Ray. You know, these vibes that I hear, when I hear it, it moves me. So I often think, dang, how would it be if I was actually growing up today? Who would I be? How would I be? You know, and it all depends on what part of the country you come from.
But you also sound one of the greatest rap groups of all time, Outkast.
Outkast was on LaFace, and to be honest, that was LA signing, and I wasn't as involved at that point, but nevertheless, they were on LaFace.
Right.
And they, you know, Big Boy and Dre, you know, that's like, to this point, they're heroes, you know, because they came completely different and honest, in which it always seems to go back to that. How honest are you? You know, and how real does it feel? And those are always the same ingredients in every genre of music. It's how real does it feel?
Yeah, you did get on a Jazzy Bell remix though.
Yeah,
He's cussing on that thing, Face.
Well, you know,
told her straight up your shit.
Still applies.
you'd have to put it, because I forget these things sometimes. I do, like, a lot of songs I do. I remember being at a concert, and I think Drew Hill was playing, and I heard some music. Heard something. Damn, that sounds familiar. And it was a couple songs that they started playing, and I forgot that I had even written the songs.
Wow.
And so sometimes when certain things come on, it's been so much that I've done over the years that I really kind of forget that I even did them.
Wow.
And that's not trying to, like, I ain't trying to flex or anything. Yeah. I'm just saying, when I do something, I do it and then I'm done with it. It's like when I write something, I write it, then I forget it on the keyboard. I have to learn it all over. And fortunately, I don't do really difficult chords most of the time, so I can usually figure it out again. Because I'm not really so much a piano player as it is. I play to write songs, you know. And then once that's done, then I move on to something.
So how does it feel when you get calls from like Lil Wayne to have you on the song Comfortable?
Well, that kind of just happens, you know. I did the song with Kanye, did the chorus and everything, and then Lil Wayne found it and did it. So we weren't in the studio together, but it was great that he loved it and he even did it, you know. So a lot of the things that are for things that are, you know, attached with the hip hop, it's like either they find a song that sampled or something, or, you know, and that was one chorus I did. It was fun. I would probably do more. If I got called, I'd probably do more choruses.
I love when you and
That's
Pharrell
a classic
connected.
rap album too.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure. I love when you and Pharrell connected for There She Goes.
Yeah.
That was like your first time really being produced by somebody, right?
Yeah, that was. And Pharrell's amazing. And I didn't mind going in there and doing that because it was a learning experience. I wanted to learn from him and see how he does what he does. And I was amazed, you know, that what he did it from, you know. And it just reminded me of how, you know, it doesn't really so much matter how much equipment you have, or whether you have everything in the world, whether you can afford everything in the world. It's all about your creativity and what you can and how you hear things and what you can work with what you got. And that was clearly a sign of, like, I knew that Pharrell was going to be like, he was already kind of big, but I knew he was going to be much bigger than what he was. Yeah.
We had a conversation with Babyface Ray.
Yeah.
And then he told us that you guys had a conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
What was that initial interaction?
It was
like?
it was one of those interviews that, you know, that somebody said you should meet Babyface Ray, and so we just kind of talked to each other. You know, he's from Detroit.
Yeah.
And I listened to his music and I listened to his vibe, and I like his like laid back vibe, you know. And I just talked to him about the music that he, you know, that he writes and what is it about, what inspires him. And it's the same thing that inspires us all. And he just writes real stuff, you know, and real things that happen in his life. And, you know, it was very cool to hear from his perspective. And once again, it's honest. Yeah. And I think that whenever you're dealing with musicians and you're dealing with artists, there's always a connection that you can always make, and even in working together, you can always make the connection as long as there's honesty that's there. You know, you never know whether a big hit would come out of it, but at least you know the art's going to come out of it.
Right.
What do you make of this long-standing connection to this "Can We Talk" record? It feels like that's kind of become like the biggest record in a different sense, right?
Yes.
In terms of how timeless it's become.
Yeah, time has been kind to Can We Talk.
Shout out Tevin Campbell.
Yeah, Tevin. Yeah. You know, Tevin, you know, we met Tevin right before he was signing, right when he signed with Quincy. So even before he actually sung Tomorrow. And he came to our studio. Benny Medina brought him to the studio and brought him in. And I think we were like, oh, we want him because he could sing, because we asked him to sing a couple of things. And what did he sing? He sung Aretha Franklin, Respect. Then he sung Superwoman.
Wow.
Karen White.
Karen White.
Yeah. And I'm like, whoa, that voice, you know. And so it wasn't until obviously his next album, a couple of years, where Quincy actually called me and said, I would love for you to write something for Tevin. And I had one song I had already written. I'd written it in high school. And so I just kind of like, because I'd written on the guitar, and then I took it and rewrote it. It's a song called I'm Ready. And,
which was hard too.
And so I recorded that first and sent that to him, and Quincy loved it. Then he said, I love it. Can you give me something else? I need a couple other things. And that's when, I wrote Can We Talk for Tevin. Had him in mind.
You got into the studio with another young new artist, SZA. Is she still new? I don't know, but
she's on top of the game right now.
She's on top of the game.
Right. For Snooze, right? That was supposed to be on.
Yeah, it wasn't supposed. There's still 2 songs.
Okay.
And there's another song that exists. I won't say the title, but I hope that she will finish it. There's a couple of things she could do finish it because it was supposed to be on a girls' night out.
Right.
And maybe she'll grace us with that one day, deluxe album or something. But yeah, the Snooze was written there in Brandon's way, and 2 songs. She wrote 2 songs. SZA is incredible. I've been around a lot of writers and a lot of artists, and to watch her work and her how unique she is and her own artistry, I just haven't seen that.
Because she's serious about her craft with the songwriting.
She's very serious, and she's but she's an artist. She's she's like also very not always secure, I think, and which artists are like that, can be like that many times. And, but she is, but she's incredible. I don't think she has any idea how incredible she is, and how talented she is. I think that she's one of the best that I've seen.
It's dope, like your connection to the newer generation. Like you're so tapped in, even with the album and like Versus, how that kind of reinvigorated the career and brought it to a new set of generation, new set of eyes.
Yeah.
And you said Andre and Rel encouraged you to do the Versus. What was your connection?
Me and Andre have been friends for years. We connected just really, but by him having Uptown and LaFace, and we used to have discussions about who was going to be bigger between Mary J and between Tony Braxton.
Damn. Oh, there we go.
And he'd be like,
real Versus.
It was like, it was all that back in the day. And, and we were like the black excellence, and he was all about the hood and that's and culture. Yeah. And and so he respected what it was. And so we were like, we weren't competitors. We would just talk about music. I would always talk with Andre. I played him the XL album when I finished it to get his opinion on it, and I played him the Mary J record when I finished it to get his opinion, because I was
not gonna cry. Be clear.
I was very proud about it, and I remember sitting at the Four Seasons in my white Range Rover playing it for him, and he listened to it and he goes, "Nah, this ain't it."
Wow.
I said, "What do you mean it's not it?" He goes, "This, it's a nice record, but this ain't Mary. Mary's not this old.
This ain't hip hop soul.
She ain't old. She don't know. She ain't got no kids. This don't make no sense. It doesn't make sense to her story." And then I said, "It's not supposed to make sense. It's for the movie." And I said, "And Mary is the voice of everyone. She's speaking for more than just herself. She's speaking for every woman that's ever been in this position." I disagree. And I was right.
And you wrote Secretary.
I wrote Secretary. Yeah, she didn't write that. I wrote that. She was like, "You sure you want to say Secretary?" "Yeah, Secretary."
Well, you mentioned like the Way to Excel soundtrack, which you did, and Soul Food contributed to The Bodyguard. Why don't we have like movie soundtracks like that anymore?
I just don't know that they connect the same way anymore. Music is completely different. The way we consume music, the way we don't watch movies the same, and music, connects us the same. It's just so much out there, so much more information out there that no one guides you any particular place, and so it's so much more individual at this particular point. I always kind of make this point where you have like Kehlani, who's like out there selling out arenas, and she's not like doing big radio records. She don't need to,
right?
Because she's got her fan base, and they sing every word, and it is a pure sign of where the artist can be in control, and it's not about labels or anything. It's really about the artist at this point. It's becoming more and more about that, and if you just happen to hit it right, it's a different day. there are far more artists that are far more successful than they were in the 90s that are making far more money for things, and they don't need the record company money. They don't need, you know, those things because they can make it so many other ways. So the one thing about, you know, just, you know, social media and everything is that there are opportunities that come with it. It may hurt us in other ways, but for a lot of artists, it's great.
Right. What do you think about this recent trend with like a lot of your peers selling their catalogs? I know L.A. Reid sold his a few years ago.
I think if you can get the right dollars for it, then yeah, you do it. You know, we're in a crazy times. We don't know what's coming. Yeah. And then if you get the right number and it makes sense in your life, then I don't think it's terrible. Some people will not sell it, and some people will. You know, so it varies.
You can write more songs.
Yeah, especially those that are young enough to where they can keep on stay in the game and just do it over again.
It's not something that you're opposed to?
No. Why would I oppose to somebody making money? You know, or someone buying something. The whole idea, we built LaFace to sell it, you know. Right.
One of my earliest experiences with your song was on an old school medium TV on Family Matters. Remember?
Oh, he did Cool? Yeah, I know.
And it seems like on social media, it's kind of taking on a life of its own, that particular song.
Yeah, I didn't see that till after it had been done. Usually,
wow.
In the time that it happened, I had no idea that it happened. So it's crazy. I mean, there are certain moments like that that you remember in TV that used to be powerful. I mean, I did the "You Are So Beautiful" at Martin and Gina's wedding.
That's right.
Oh yeah, yes.
Right.
And many times I would be asked to sing "You Are So Beautiful" at people's weddings.
Can't afford that, baby. That's television. You know what I'm saying?
So, but yeah, there have always been moments like that. You know, that we don't feel the same way anymore because television is such a, you know, everybody's looking for a viral moment, and you can't create them.
Yeah.
That's the one thing and I think that's the good thing, because if you can kind of create it, then we're all in trouble, you know. So it keeps us guessing, you know. Keeps it honest.
Yeah. Are you gonna recreate the magic of you and Madonna? I heard she's going on tour this year.
I don't know. When me and Madonna did that song, "Take a Bow," it was another one of those songs that was not a traditional Madonna song. Did very well. We actually won an American Music Award for it.
Yeah.
And it was crazy when we performed it on that show. And I remember being so nervous, and because I had on some really wide pants, my leg was like shaking like that.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah, well, you won't see that leg shaking. But the leg was shaking. And I remember coming off the stage and saying to her, I was so nervous. And she said, I was so nervous too. And that hit me like, whoa, Madonna's nervous?
Wow.
Because it was just a different kind of, it's so different experience. And to this day, the one thing I'll say is that these moments that happen, that pass you by, you almost don't realize they even happened. The one thing that I can say about, as it relates to the amount of the catalog that I have in terms of all the songs I've written, is that I was never stopping to say, to smell the flowers or smell the success. I was like, okay, did this, okay, now go back and work more. Yeah. And so was working throughout at the high points when it seems like every week was like a, you know, top 10 song or whatever like that. I wasn't focused on anything but just the music, and not so much like I want to get another top 10. I want to get this. It's just, it was writing for writing's sake and enjoying that process. So when I see things where I see me on the American Music Awards with Madonna or performing Change the World with Eric Clapton on the Grammys, those memories aren't clear as the memories that I have for growing up and working towards doing all of this. once I got into it, then that's all I was doing. But the years prior to it, the deal years and which I would say those really fun times with the band and stuff like that. That stuff I have clear memories and clear stories that come from it. Yeah. But not so much with the when I really got with the really big artists. Wow. It's not as clear because I was still in work mode.
Or you're in work mode this year, man. What else can we look forward to this year?
You know, I'm just we're actually trying to put together a deluxe album for Girls Night Out as well.
Oh, okay,
great.
And I think that I'll be out touring as well, and just looking at some other kind of projects that, you know, there's a lot of people that have been hitting me up about doing some work, which is fun, and so I'll figure out what things I want to do and just kind of keep doing the same, staying in it. That's my blessing, is that I'm able to at least do it. Yeah, you know, people are still interested. You know?
Right.
So
we're still interested in the music, but before we get out of here, what are the 5 Babyface essentials? I know it's difficult. Essentials, like
there's too many songs. And that's not me trying to flex. But there are so many moments, and there's probably songs that, you know, that weren't necessarily big songs, but things that, you know, kind of touched me. And
I know you spoke about working with Aretha Franklin. That's probably
Aretha Franklin, right? Like that Hurts Like Hell on the XL thing. That's like one of my favorites.
That's the number one record in your heart.
Like, yeah, because the way she performed it, and because she just came in and just killed that thing. And that's a special moment, a special memory. Doing the XL project, it's a little cloudy in terms of some of the details, but certain things stick out. Working with Chaka, working with Patti LaBelle, because working with Brandy. When I worked,
I had in my room,
classic.
Because those were like done in my house on what street was that?
Let's get the street face. Let's get the street.
I'm spacing the street right now, but it wasn't Carrollwood. There's a little house that I had, and so the studio was in back of the kitchen. There was a kitchen, and then they had a little studio in the back, and so I mean, Patty would come walk through the kitchen. She's like, I might cook something before I come in there.
There you go.
And then everybody came in there. So because that whole time period, I had Madonna coming in there. I had Whitney coming there. We wrote Count on Me there. I had Brandy came in there, and Brandy, like, you know, I had listened to Brandy prior to it, and I, you know, wrote the song specifically for her in the movie. But then when she came in and started singing, I was like, my mouth was just wide open. I could not believe it. And she did the harmonies, and I was like, it was just unbelievable. Brandy is, I think she's one of the most underrated singers.
Let's say it.
Of all time.
The voice.
She is incredible. And that voice is just, it's glorious. And I couldn't believe it when I did that song with her. I was like so happy, you know, when she was doing it. And it's not like I was thinking, oh, this is a hit or something like that. I was just thinking, this just sounds so good and feels so good. You know? Yeah. And so when that whole project was done, you know, and I turned it in, that's the first time I turned something into Clive where he had no notes.
Wow.
Yeah. Perfect score.
So, yeah, perfect score for a score, yeah. It was, so that whole project was incredible, and working with a number of those artists that made it fun. And Mary J, you know, went to New York and working with her, and that was like, she's like Mr. Face. That's what she called me.
And Whitney approved it. So
yeah, Whitney was down for Mary for sure. A couple people she wasn't down for.
That's coming in the documentary one day too.
Was it seamless working like that with Beyonce as well?
With Beyonce, when I worked with Beyonce, that was in New York, and it was Beyonce would come in the room. just kind of writing music. I worked with Beyonce through working with Stargate before, and then end up doing it, myself. She would come in the room, she'd come and check out what we had written, and then she would walk out and say whether she liked it or not, and then I'd hand it to her. If she liked something, then she'd take it, she'd go sing it, then come back, and then we do it that way. Beyonce is another one of those artists who, best way to say it is Beyonce. What a voice, what an artistry. I'm proud of who she has become. I'm proud of how she carries her stardom, her being the queen. I'm proud of who she ultimately became. I mean, it's not a secret, but Daryl Simmons, he actually founded Beyonce when they were kids, and he had signed them up. So it's fun to see where this little girl, and I hadn't met him then, but it's great to see where her story and her journey, and Jay-Z and his journey and where they have come. They're the king and queen. And I'm proud of them. For what they've done.
Yeah, my last thing is, I was just thinking, you were saying how 2 Occasions was kind of like the birth of Babyface. I feel like something about when Can I See You? Oh, you pulling out the guitar, like that was more like this. That's the Babyface. Oh, Babyface is a superstar. Like,
that was a continuation. It was because I wanted to go back to where it started, because I started playing acoustic guitar, and that was where I wanted to. I wondered if that could work. Yeah. You think of how the For the Coolin' You sounds, and that sounds the same album, the range of that.
Right.
So that was, I'm glad that it did work, because it allowed me to, well, actually, it is because of When Can I See You that I worked with Madonna. Madonna, she loved that song. It's because of When Can I See You that I worked with Eric Clapton, because they loved that song. He loved that song as well. So that was a great decision for me to pull out the acoustic guitar and show that side of me. Yeah.
And they dumped it on Teddy Riley in that verse. They hit him with that too.
All the Teddy, I just knew there was nothing I was going to be able to battle with when he played that remix.
Oh, SWV one?
Yeah. It's like, how you gonna beat that? How you gonna beat that?
Was that fun looking back on it to do that? Because I knew at first, like, you didn't really know what you were getting into. Like, looking back at it now, how do you feel about the whole thing?
I was nervous as hell throughout it, and it was difficult to sit there and look at a camera and act like that ain't me. So I was so it was weird, and it was weird to be nervous about it when it's just the camera. At the same time. But it was a moment, and I think because of that moment, it kind of changed my life.
Yeah, and a reminder how important you are to us, and more contributions to come.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely legend, Babyface. Did you coin the term tenderoni? We were debating that before you came.
No.
Okay.
Tenderoni was a term that existed.
Okay.
The Tenderoni song. I'll do that. We'll do the last thing. We'll finish it with it. How did Tenderoni happen? So we were in the deal. We were down in Miami, and for some reason they didn't let us on their show in Miami. We were hurt.
Wow, damn.
Yeah, we were destroyed. And I think they tried to book us at some little skating rink the same night. And, of course, wasn't nobody there. So we got on the bus, and we had our tour bus, and we parked outside of the concert.
Wow.
So that way we could pick up girls when they came out, And so we had D stand in the front of the bus because he was like the good-looking guy. And he stood out and he said, hey, we having a little after party at our hotel. And they go, who are y'all? We the deal. We supposed to be on the show, but
honesty.
Something happens. And then, so all these people, these girls came by. And there was one girl in particular that came on the bus, and nice, sweet girl. And she gets on the bus and she, D invites them all. So I'm sitting downstairs waiting for her. And I have to sit and wait because Daryl Simmons has got somebody in the room. We were sharing rooms. He said, give me some time. So I gave him time. So I'm sitting downstairs and this one girl comes in. She sits down and she's like talking to me. And nice, we're having a nice conversation. I was a nice guy, I didn't do anything. So as we're talking, D comes downstairs and grabs her real quick. And when he grabs her, takes her upstairs immediately. And I'm like sitting there by myself. About 10 minutes later, she comes down, she goes, I can't believe it. He said, started trying to kiss me and stuff. And I said, but you went to his room. I said, you came here and not like that was cool, but you shouldn't have done that. And
right.
So she goes, yeah, right, and stuff like. So we're sitting there talking and stuff, and then we end up going. I get tired. Finally, Daryl comes down. So I get tired. So I go up to my room. Say, I'm sorry, I'm tired. I gotta go up to my room. She says, can I go up to your room with you? I said, okay. So she walks up. We talk. She invites me to go out the next day and see the city. And then finally her friend was leaving because her friend was seeing Carlos, I think. So they start to walk out of the building. And I walk her downstairs. As I'm walking her downstairs, D walks out and sees me walking with her. And he goes, this ain't cool. Because it's a Jacoby. And a Jacoby was, back in the days when you're in a band, you spend all your time watching All My Children. And there was a character called Steve Jacoby, and he was stealing everybody's girl. So the term was Jacoby, to be a Jacoby. And like this is just getting too far. We gotta have a meeting. So we had a group meeting about Jacobys. I was being accused of pulling a Jacoby.
Oh man.
And so we were sitting there in this meeting, and D was saying, it's this Jacoby stuff's got to stop because, Face was up there, with her and I had pulled the girl and this. I said, wait a minute, no, this was not a Jacoby. First of all, she was a Roni, and the truth about a Roni, she's a sweet old girl, and if you treat them right, and I saw these lyrics was kind of hit me right at that moment.
Wow.
And so, I wasn't even Babyface then, I was just Kenny. And so I immediately, after that meeting, I went to my room and wrote Tenderoni. Wow. And that was in like 82, 83. Wow. That song did not get to Bobby Brown till 88.
88, wow.
So, and it stuck around that long. So.
Songs.
And so the word Tenderoni, it started way back then, lasted then.
Roni.
Yeah, and then Roni, and then so I remember Tevin Campbell saying, because when we say Roni in Can We Talk, he says, that word's too old. Nobody wants to say that. I said, trust me, it'll still work. So
now we gotta make a song about Jacobys.
Jacobys. I know. That's a funny thing. Jacobys.
Well, you're a legend, Face. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so
we
much.
appreciate your time, brother.
I appreciate you guys.
Yes, sir. Rap Radar Podcast.
Yeah.